won and built by generations of patriots who gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. They were farmers and soldiers, cowboys and factory workers, steel workers, coal miners, police officers, and pioneers who pushed onward, marched forward, and let no obstacle stand in their path. Nothing could get in their way. Together they laid down the railroads, raised up the skyscrapers, built the great highways, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and launched American astronauts to the moon. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country. And 75 days ago on November 5th, it was hardworking patriots like you who saved our country. You saved our country. Now, after all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America's promise and we will rebuild the nation we all love so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never back down, and we will never, ever, ever, ever surrender. We will fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What a great victory for everybody. Thank you, America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President-elect Donald Trump there with trademark passion outlining what he intends to achieve once he steps into the presidency tomorrow. Now we'll cut to our White House correspondent, Iris Tao. Iris, any particular takeaways from what we've heard today?
So just now we witnessed President-elect Trump's one final speech before he is set to swear in as the 47th president tomorrow at noon. And right now we're less than 20 hours from it. And Trump used this speech to not only lay out what he's going to do on day one as the president, but also repeat some of the major themes that he's been promoting to his supporters and frankly to all Americans throughout his past few years of campaigning. For example, he said that tomorrow he's going to take back our country at noon, and we'll begin a, quote, brand new day of American strength and prosperity, dignity, and pride. And actually, some lines were actually quite similar to his 2017 inauguration speech. If it offers a preview of his inaugural speech tomorrow, for example, he says, we're going to be sworn in together, and that he's going to represent the people as the 47th president, striking a populist tone right there as he did back in 2017. He also said that America belongs to you, emphasizing that he's a president for all Americans and trying to bring that message of unity ahead of his inauguration tomorrow. So we do expect some of the specific themes from his rally speech today to again appear during the inaugural ceremony tomorrow at noontime. But of course, Trump also laid out a few specific things that he will do tomorrow on the big day. For example, he says he's going to roll out a slew of fast and furious executive orders on day one. He's not going to wait for a few weeks or even a few months to lay out his key agenda items. He says he's going to do it all in one day tomorrow when he takes office, potentially just signing the orders at the White House during Congress during that signing ceremony. And he says the American people will, quote, have a lot of fun watching television tomorrow as he vows to sign those executive orders. Of course, he also vows to repeal President Biden's executive actions, quote, within hours of taking office. We know that Trump has talked about repealing Biden's orders when it comes to the environment as well as the energy sector. So a few big things to watch for tomorrow as we witness the moment he signs those orders during the ceremony. Meanwhile, he also hints that he's going to issue major pardons for January 6 defendants as part of his day one agenda. He says everyone in the arena that will be quote, very happy tomorrow when they hear his decision on the January 6th hostages, who of course we know that 4 years ago were here at the U.S. Capitol. And during this rally, of course, Trump also had quite some prominent VIPs and guests. Some of them were invited on the stage, including Elon Musk, who Trump today again repeatedly thanked for helping him win Pennsylvania. Remember that Elon Musk really poured in a lot of money, giving now $1 million to the voters who actually won with the pay for him to sign the pledge. So a lot of input from Elon Musk on Trump's Pennsylvania campaign. And now, as you can see, Trump repeatedly highlighting what Elon Musk did. And we see Elon Musk at all these rallies now. Of course, he's been at Mar-a-Lago all the time, according to what we've seen and heard from people there. And also, Trump talked about the latest news of the day, the hostages from Gaza being released, including a few Americans. Trump says it would, quote, never have happened if the war would never happen if he were the president, and adding that what's happening right now, the hostages being brought back and the deal, ceasefire deal being signed is actually part of his contribution to the situation. So him again taking credit for the Middle East situation. Of course, about the latest news today around TikTok. Trump says TikTok is resuming some of its service, and that's thanks to him. He says he wants the app to stay alive and not go dark. And just this morning, he wrote on Truth Social that he's asking companies to not let TikTok stay dark. But he's also emphasizing that he does want a win-win solution in which he can protect American people's security and national security interests as well as data security, while at the same time allowing American businesses and users to take their opportunities from using the platform. And another thing that he actually made
That ends our special coverage of the Trump victory rally. Join us tomorrow for our special coverage of the inauguration ceremony. Thank you for tuning.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time, get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
Are you over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days? I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. Call now for this free book on maximizing your income in retirement. Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers from one of the nation's leading financial firms. That's right, free. This book reveals little-known truths about annuities in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we're about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known truths we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity, and it's free. Call 800-360-0943. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report. We researched numerous products and summarized rates and benefits of annuities, all from Silac Insurance Company. Call 800-360-0943. That's 800-360-0943. Call now.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And the NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society.
On this edition of NTD's International Roundtable, President-elect Trump plans to impose tariffs across the globe. He thinks the U.S. isn't being treated fairly, but will that have an impact on Americans at home? President-elect Trump has a plan. He says he's going to impose tariffs across the globe to make up for unfair trade practices. Economists warn these tariffs could be catastrophic for Americans, who may pay the price for the higher cost of goods. Will the disaster in California change Trump's plan? How will he convince countries to provide vital resources we may need? Trump says he wants to create an external revenue service to collect the tariffs. Will he need approval from Congress? Time to meet our panel. Experts on trade and tariffs, Christian Briggs and Kenneth Raposa. Welcome to NTD's International Roundtable. I'm Arlene Richards. President-elect Trump's tariff plan could impose tariffs across the globe. Will that benefit Americans' wallets, or will they complain about higher prices? We are going to break it all down with our panel. Kenneth Raposa, an analyst at Coalition for a Prosperous America, and Christian Briggs, CEO of Hard Asset Management, Inc. A month before he won the race, President-elect Trump talked about tariffs with Bloomberg News. Here's what he said.
To me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff, and it's my favorite word. It needs a public relations firm to help it.
Kenneth, we'll start with you. So Trump says that they can be used as a money-making instrument, these tariffs. So what do you think about this? Is it about money?
Well, there are two ways to look at tariffs, right? One way is to look at it as a revenue, which is what you spoke to earlier, which is the External Revenue Service, whereas you're taxing companies who are importing to the United States a percentage of the cost of their goods. So it could be 10%, it could be, that's a number that's been floated around, it could be 20%. And so that would be used as a way to collect revenue for the government, as opposed to raising taxes. And also for Trump, it would allow him to keep the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in place, which expires this year. So that's one way to look at it. And that's the way the market looks at it in many ways. And many people on Capitol Hill look at it that way. The other way, of course, is you impose tariffs on countries in order to protect certain industries like automotive, for example, in the United States, or solar, for example, because you deem them critical industries to the growth of the industrial base of the United States. And so you put tariffs on them to protect labor and to protect the investments of those sectors of the economy here at home.
Christian, I want to ask you a different question. So will these tariffs raise additional revenue for the government, or could they widen the federal debt?
Well, it's a great question. It depends on how they're tactically used. So about 2 weeks ago, we looked at what could be surgically imposed on certain items that were coming from China and other parts of the world, specifically China, obviously one of the biggest manufacturers that we have. And since we're a nation of consumption and a lot of our manufacturing, you could impose the tariffs in a right surgical way rather than using a grenade in an arena, is what I've used in the past as kind of an example. But I do believe he does have the opportunity to put the tariffs together on, again, surgically selected items, very tactful, and then at the same time be able to lower the taxes or keep the lower tax rates in place. This could really be a real win for the economy.
Kenneth, so Christian says that he could put tariffs together surgically and then also lower taxes. How do you feel about that?
Well, yes. So when he's talking about surgically, he means going after certain sectors, right? So you're not saying let's put tariffs across the board. That's against the across the board idea, right? Which is what Trump, of course, spoke about in the beginning, was all across the board. So you're saying I'm not going to put a tariff on Nespresso Virtuo machines made in Hungary, which cost $200, right? I'm not going to put tariffs on those because American companies don't make those. We make very high end, perhaps espresso machines that are built into a wall that cost $2,000. So we're not losing the Nespresso Virtuo coffee making market in the United States, but you might want to put that on steel. As I mentioned earlier, automobiles, another big issue in the United States, with Mexico being, the free trade guys. We get a lot of auto industries moving to Mexico. If you want to keep it here, what are you going to do about that? Same thing with solar and other sectors of the economy. So you pick your spots. Of course, some people argue that's a special interest story, right? But the government can pick its spots and say, we're going to start off with tariffs here. And again, remember, Trump has done this and Biden has done this, and there was no major impact on inflation. Inflation that Americans felt over the last 3 years related to the COVID relief, spending by the government, eggs, insurance, your cable bill went up. None of those things are imported.
So does this work in terms of surgically, Christian? You look at what we already have here in the United States, and then you decide what it is that we want to put tariffs on in other countries. How does this work?
Well, that's exactly right. It's a good point. So depending upon the items that we look at, for example, China comes in and a lot of times they'll they'll underprice things to be able to hurt our own internal manufacturing, domestic manufacturing. So what they've tried to do is, and this has been going on for 30 years with China, and a lot of other countries have attempted it, but China's actually done it really well, is to come in, underprice things, solar, aluminum, steel, copper, nickel, whatever it may be, whatever commodity or product. But what's really interesting, the way I've been hearing from some of the Trump people is, we're going to put it on the things that have the least amount of inflationary impact and the most amount of impact to be able to draw back domestic manufacturing. I'll give you an example. So when you start to look at solar, they dump solar relatively inexpensively, certainly below cost, but that we can do it. But if we raise surgically, again, the pricing of imported solar panels, then what can happen is our domestic manufacturing becomes more competitive, thus creating a domestic manufacturing revolution or revitalization of manufacturing in all aspects. And I mean, this goes on just solar. There's furniture coming from China. Recently, if you look at some of the furniture markets, China is flooding the market with cheap, inexpensive furniture that looks good, works well, and people are buying it. We've got to get out of the lowest cost provider and put the tariffs on the things that are going to build domestic manufacturing. And I know Trump knows that because he's got some smart people around him. I've had the opportunity to talk with many of them and dine with them here in recent weeks, and they are very smart, and they're going to do this very tactfully.
Now, we hear President Trump talk about a deficit, and he says that it's because of unfair trade. So how big is the federal debt, and how does that affect American taxpayers? Kenneth?
Well, the fiscal deficit, I think, is around $3 trillion, right? So what happens in a basic economics 101, okay, is this. Well, I just got my bonus check, and 40% of it went to the government, okay? So in the future, 40%, and that's not even my baseline tax rate. So in the future, my baseline tax rate might be 39% because in order to fund the government, which needs revenue from taxpayers, you need to raise taxes. So what Trump and a lot of people on the street are saying is that if we can raise taxes via tariffs, or rather not use the word tax, but collect revenue from tariffs, then again, as I said, you can extend the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and you are not going to be forced to raise taxes on you and I in the future in order to pay for the government, because the government is growing, our debt is growing, right? Which is the money we need to keep the government functioning. And if you don't have money coming in to keep the government functioning at the current tax rate levels, you have to raise taxes. Or if you don't raise taxes, then you have to cut the size of the government down. Those will ultimately be your two options. And the million-dollar question is, if you're going to cut the government down, which we've never seen happen before, if you are miraculously going to do that, what part of the government is going to be reduced, right? So that's what either you're going to raise taxes or you're going to have to reduce the size of government. So, this is why the deficit is such a big problem. This is why guys on Wall Street worry about it so much. And this is why a lot of them have come out, like Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary nominee, who's in hearings right now, why they support it.
Christian, how long is that going to take? And also, has Trump defined where the money will go from these tariffs?
Okay, another great question. I got asked this just the other night at Mar-a-Lago. What is the time frame that's realistic for expectations? See, the problem we've got in the U.S. is we have short-term memories. And so people think that on January 21st, when he's actually in the Oval Office, his first full day, that things are going to start to change almost immediately. I'm trying to kind of relate some of the messaging to the Trump administration is you have to make sure that the expectations match the results. In other words, if you're going to try to put all the tariffs in a fairly quick manner, which I would, that's what I would do. And I think Kenneth is absolutely right. If we raise the tariffs, we can keep the tax rates low, which is absolutely good 101 business, lower the deficit spending, lower the debt in the long term. But the thing you've got to remember is for any of this stuff to work, as we know physics are very simple, you have to have an expectation of timelines. Anything that he imposes is a 12 to 18 month result timeline. Now, that doesn't mean we won't see some things immediately pick up, but you have to make sure the messaging to the American public is very clear. We are going to get this done. It will not happen in 30 days. It's a 12 to 18 month timeline, but it will work. And I believe he's going to start getting the messaging out because, as Kenneth said earlier, he did go from this, we're going to throw everything under the sun as a big tariff when he first talked about it. Then he kind of reeled back a little bit, okay? And he said, well, you know what? We're going to be more tactful about it. And that was a great way of trying to engage and let people know what the expectations are. It's not everything, and it's not going to happen overnight. But with you looking at the people he surrounded himself with, they're some of the smartest people in the world. They will do what needs to be done, but you just have to be patient, but it will work.
Kenneth, can they convince the Democrats to support it?
Well, the Democrats do not support the Tax Cut and Job Act renewal. And the Democrats in Congress, they keep saying that we're not going to have tariffs because they keep framing tariffs as a tax. That's their strategy. They're framing tariffs as a tax, and taxes are the wheelhouse of Congress. So are the Democrats going to let Trump do this? Well, normally the president is in charge of tariffs, and Congress used to be, but they have abandoned that role for many years now. So now all of a sudden they want to get involved in it. But it seems like the only ones who want to get involved in it are the ones who want to stop Trump from doing this. And again, Trump won an election. Tariffs were first and foremost of his policy. Many people said, we like this idea, including guys on the street, including Wall Street. Wall Street was against tariffs. When Trump said we're going to do the Section 301 China tariffs, all hell was going to break loose. The sky was falling. It was going to be the worst thing in the world. We never had tariffs on China before, nothing beyond what they already deal with now, which is probably 3% to 5% on average.
All right, Kenneth, we're going to have to take a break now. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about how Trump's tariffs affect manufacturing labor. I'm Arlene Richards, and this is NTD's International Roundtable. We'll be right back.
The Chinese Communist Party is exposing its hand. The fingerprints can be found all over. And I recently caught wind of these CCP operations on full display in South Korea. The top 13 theaters all rejected Shen Yun almost simultaneously. What makes the case in South Korea so different? And how does the CCP extend its influence into other countries? Now, for the Chinese Communist Party, this is warfare. War being waged here isn't being done through tanks and bombs, but instead through the invisible forces of culture and ideology. They also revealed a hidden war.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented My Pillow. My Pillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got My Pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King My Pillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic My Pillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
Welcome back to NTD's International Roundtable. I'm Arlene Richards. Our guests are experts on tariffs and trade, Christian Briggs and Kenneth Raposa. In 2024 interview with then former President Trump, Bloomberg News editor-in-chief John Micklethwait posed this question.
You look at the American economy, 40 million jobs rely on trade. It accounts for 27% of GDP. Okay. If you cut that off, that's also going to have an effect on many, many business people here. Yeah. Tariffs also have another side. Isn't that something that you have to acknowledge? No. You could be plunging America into the biggest trade war since Smoot-Hawley.
But there are no tariffs.
You're going to stop. There are tariffs already.
No, there are no tariffs. All you have to do is build your plant in the United States and you don't have any tariffs.
Christian, if more factories are built in the U.S. because of these tariffs, why would workers still need to rely on trade jobs, as Mr. Micklethwait said?
Well, if you build your manufacturing here in the United States, first of all, especially in a competitive landscaping, if the tariffs are applied in such a, I would consider it to be, again, to be a tactical and surgical way, the manufacturing here will boom. Now, you still need trade because you need outside investment income. You can't just rely on the circulation or the recirculation of domestic money. So you got to have fresh capital that comes in. And I look at it like this. If we build the manufacturing and we can get a low cost, I call it the widget mentality. If your widget can get to a point where you're highly competitive, then all of a sudden foreign investment into this country, like President Trump said, there are no tariffs all of a sudden. He's right. So if we build the manufacturing, because remember in his first term, he actually built 600,000 new manufacturing jobs. Now, under the Biden administration, we lost about half of those because of bad fiscal policy, but we can garner those back pretty quickly. And if we do that, then all of a sudden we become the next generation of manufacturing legacies that can be left to generational type wealth. And the way the businesses work today, then people can stay 40 years at a specific job or a company. That's the name of the game. We got to go back to the old school mentality. Make it in America for the Americans, but trade for the world. And if there's 14 million jobs, according to the Bloomberg fella, that rely on international trade, there's no reason to get rid of any of that. Stay competitive, domesticate as much manufacturing as you can, grow the GDP. That's the winning formula. And I know that Trump has that formula as a focal point of his number one agenda, is to get the deficit spending down, get the debt down, and bring home American manufacturing and get that foreign investment.
Kenneth, is bringing home American manufacturing the ticket here? Is this going to work?
Well, look, anyone who lives in upstate New York or any area that's not in a big American city, that's glued to the services economy or software engineering, knows what happened when manufacturing left. A lot of these areas were totally destroyed, and the new market there is treatment centers in many of these areas. We've all seen it. So Trump's strategy is to bring manufacturing back to the United States. It's always been. And let's not forget, Biden had the same strategy. The CHIPS Act was about that for semiconductors, and the Inflation Reduction Act was like that for solar, for wind, and EV batteries. It was designed to make manufacturing set up shop in the United States and have a reasonable return on investment for the capital that they're going to put up to build these factories in the United States.
Christian, let me ask you, does domestic production have value beyond what market prices reflect?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for asking that question. I was going to kind of go into some more statistics. Whenever you manufacture a product in the United States, this is why automotive and airlines are so important around the world. That's why China and France have made airline manufacturing such a huge part of their GDP, certainly their infrastructure. The resonating effect is simple. For every dollar in manufacturing that we do, and I'm talking about truly manufacture, it's not outsourced and then somehow it's put together here, but true manufacturing, at a minimum, that dollar of manufactured goods sold resonates $6 within the economy. If it's heavy manufacturing, like at the Boeing, or if it's General Motors, or if it's large scale, where even if it's outsourced, but the parts are made in America, assembled in America, it could actually go $12 deep in the economy. So Trump knows this, actually. And when I was talking to some of his people here recently over the last 6 months, 12 months, because we felt very confident he could win this election, which he did, that this was going to be a number one cause and need and effect to be able to do. I actually said, if you can bring one job back to America, and Kenneth was right, upstate New York, or go to the places where they're hungry for this, where the labor is ready to work and to work for great wages, you could literally have a 1 to 12 effect in the economy. And that's based on a number of different manufacturing items. The heavier, the bigger the equipment, the more money resonates throughout the United States, and that worker gets a high-paying job.
You know, Christian, you've piqued my curiosity. Can you tell us who you talked to at Mar-a-Lago?
Well, I have talked to a lot of them. In fact, I had the fortunate to be with some of their people this past weekend at the Jewish prayer breakfast. And so a lot of the people that are working with President Trump and the transition team at Mar-a-Lago, and then I did dine with a few of their people. I will say this: I've known many of the senators and House members that are going to work with Trump in the administration. I've had a personal and a business relationship in some way, shape, or form that goes outside just this politics. And I've also been able to help them on economics, especially when it comes to what we're talking about today. But the real question goes back to the same thing that I said before. If we continue to see large-scale dumping of products, commodities by China, I'm going to use China as kind of the reference point, the largest doer of this. And Kenneth brings up, again, a good point about solar. Solar is one of the biggest examples. But we can beat this. We can win at this. And I'll tell you why. The American spirit, the American manufacturing individual is hungry to have these jobs again. They're hungry for it. And there's a willingness, and there's an era of utopia, I would say, after the win, to be able to do this. So he's got the wind at his back. He's got the American public behind him. He's going to do this. And I do believe his pick for Treasury Secretary is a good one. I believe that even Rubio is a great pick for Secretary of State. They're going to work together to find the ways in which to grow the GDP without adding to the debt. Now, that's going to take some time.
All right, Christian,
so
you
let's
know
be
what?
patient.
I'm going to ask you again when we get offline about who you talked to, because I want some names here. But let's move on to Kenneth.
Okay.
So let's talk again about made in America. So why should consumers understand the broader importance of buying American-made goods rather than the cheap imports from countries like China who are using slave labor? Kenneth.
Well, look, you're only buying. I liken the Made in America idea to like craft beer, for example. You know, you're supporting your local community, you're supporting your maybe even people in your states, right? So, but it's up to the consumer. The consumer is often going to go and say, I need new cabinets, and those are expensive items. And if I go to Lowe's, I can get them from Vietnam or China for $10, whatever. And if I get the ones made in Alabama, it might cost me $80. So people are always going to have that decision to make. That's still going to exist, even with tariffs in place, right? Even we do live in a global economy still. But if you believe that you want to support local business, you want to have your country and your state survive, right? Because we're not all going to be coders, we're not all going to be celebrities on TikTok. Then buying American as a consumer is one of the best things you could do for the local economy and the national economy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all get emails from the Trump transition team. So I want to talk about an email we got recently. It said, if President Trump's successful tax cuts are not reauthorized, 207 million American taxpayers will see an average tax hike of 22%, while President Trump's tariffs will protect the American worker. How do we equate tax cuts with tariffs? Christian?
Well, again, it goes back to the same philosophy. If we can get the pricing down to a point in the manufacturing to be competitive, then that's going to automatically resonate within the American public, and the tariffs will become really, well, I wouldn't say inconsequentially not needed, but it makes it more competitive. So if a Chinese product hits our shores, and they will, they're doing it every day, but it's at a price point that Kenneth even said, if it's either too high, we can make products less expensive than we already do today. We've got to keep the tax cuts in place. We've got to use those tariffs as a way to bring the manufacturing home. But more importantly, I think there's going to be more legislation made to help the small businesses. And I believe he is going to kind of move toward that manufacturing sector and offer some incentives like he did with Broadcom when Broadcom announced a multi-billion-dollar deal for chips here. And so we can make things competitive. There might be some strategic things that have to be done on an individual basis for companies that bring large-scale manufacturing. But it is possible to bring the widget cost down. We don't have to pay premiums because it's made in America, but it's going to be made in America, and that's a premium product that we can be competitively priced at. And that will happen. Not in everything, but I know this. He's already working on several things.
All right, Kenneth, what are some of these strategic things that needs to happen?
Well, sure. I think if you're going to look at tariffs strategically, right, look at the sectors, I think one of the simplest things would be you're going to have some sort of tariff or a quota on the items that the previous administration, Biden, has already given subsidies and all kind of tax incentives to produce. That it would be microchips and solar, for example. Those are the two main ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Because otherwise, if you're going to get all these tax breaks, for example, to produce solar or semiconductors in the United States, and you're not going to have tariff protection, then these companies like Broadcom, they're going to sit back and make a calculation and say, why am I building a $10 million or $50 million factory here when I could just build it in Guangzhou, or I could build it in Taiwan, or I could just import it or outsource it? So they're going to make that calculation. So at the very least, you need to have tariffs or quotas on strategic sectors, critical sectors of the economy, so that the companies that move the United States economy can invest, understanding that their investment is going to be protected in some way because they know how many goods are going to come in and what their competition is priced at.
I want to go back to Trump's first term. He also imposed tariffs at that time. And according to the National Bureau of Economic Research in January 2024 working paper, Trump's first term tariffs had negative employment impacts. So are we going to see that happen again, Christian?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really well done. I don't think we're going to see a lot of impact on any kind of employment right away, but there will be a big amount of employment gain as manufacturing does come back here. What again, I'm going to say this and get this messaging very clearly put out there to the American people. You've got to give time. You've got to give this thing a time to work. I always say that any economic policy, legislated or executive order, however this thing comes to fruition, it takes 12 months to move an iceberg in any one-way direction to see it actually meaningful. Now, it will happen immediately. There'll be some small movements, but meaningful movement can be seen in large-scale federalized legislation and whatever the impact is, whatever like the infrastructure. Infrastructure expected to be done in 2 days. It doesn't work
that way. All right,
Christian,
we're going to have to take a break now. Sorry to interrupt you. Okay. We're going to take a break. Coming up, using tariffs as a geopolitical tool. Stay with us.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Hi, friends. Richard Karn here. Now, I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. So we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air conditioner. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowner's insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by U.S. News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-6782. 800-360-6782.
The annual clearance event is going on now at Mathis Home with doorbuster prices in every department. Shop hundreds of sofas in all the latest styles and get huge discounts. Get closeout prices on bedroom and dining furniture, or choose from a huge assortment of recliners from all the top brands. Plus, they're all in stock. so you can take it home today with our fast and easy financing. Come save at the annual clearance event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Welcome back to NTD's International Roundtable. I'm Arlene Richards. We're here with our panel experts on tariffs and trade, Kenneth Raposa and Christian Briggs. On day one of his second tenure, Trump has vowed to hit the United States' three largest trading partners, China, Mexico, and Canada, with new tariffs. Let's watch this clip.
But if China or some other country is behaving badly, we have things called tariffs that are so severe. Mexico, look at Mexico, what they're doing. I can solve that problem, I believe, in one day. You send people through, you allow people to come through your country with hundreds of miles they have to walk.
So Mexico has already said it will retaliate. So when you look at California, which needs resources to rebuild, if they have to get materials from Mexico, should they now expect to pay a tariff, Christian?
Well, yeah, they're going to have to spend a little bit of money to get that product again, but that's okay. That's all right, because in some cases, for decades, some of these products have been sold with artificially low pricing points. There should have been tariffs on some of this stuff decades ago, but for policy, a lot of times to get along, we got to go along, and we did impose this. But I would absolutely think that anything coming in from Mexico to the U.S. is going to have a larger tariff on it. But again, it's not going to just be a grenade in a room. It's going to have a very, very meaningful way of making sure that the product is still a product that can be sold. I'm not going to try to take it out of the marketplace, but make America products more competitive, create that new dynamic shift from international to domestic purchasing or consumption by the U.S. consumer.
Well, Kenneth, does Trump need to reevaluate his tariffs on Mexico?
Well, tariffs are going to be used as a tool to get Mexico to patrol its border more, right? That's going to be the main thing that he's going to use tariffs for. And remember, he did that in his first term where he said, if you can't police your border, we're going to slap tariffs on your economy. And then we had the Remain in Mexico policy that came out of that. So I think Trump, when he speaks about tariffs on Mexico, which has a free trade agreement with the United States, it mainly stemmed out of some American companies like John Deere that said, we're going to close factories in the heartland and we're going to move them to Mexico and manufacture there. And Trump said, famously, I believe it was in the summer, if you do that, I'm going to hit you with a 200% tariff or 100% tariff, whatever the number was. And so he's going to make threats like that. Mexico also has other investigations like steel that they've been under for years. And so maybe you see steel tariffs going up in Mexico as well.
So let's take a look at Canada. Here's what Trump said about Canada. Let's watch.
Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it.
Christian, what does he want from Canada and how likely is he to get it?
Well, he wants, first of all, border immigration to be somewhat put on the front burner, because obviously a lot of people came in from northern part of North America through Canada. But at the end of the day, what he wants is he wants competitiveness. Let's just get right down to it. He wants immigration policy to be enforced by both countries, Mexico and the U.S. and Canada, into the U.S. That's first and foremost. And if he has to use tariffs as a weapon, he'll do it. But at the end of the day, what he really wants is economics. Look, you can sit there and threaten to try to use things to minimize the illegal crossing, whatever it's Canada or Mexico or wherever they come from. But really at the heart of this thing, this is about economic prosperity. Because that's what is long-term. That's the legacy that you can do that can leave America in a better place than what it was, 6 months or 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Get these products that are artificially pushed into the United States, put the tariffs on that they deserve to be put on, make it competitive for the U.S. manufacturer to sell his products in the U.S. and international for that matter. But that's what it's all about. He's not here to have a trade war. That's not what he does. There's no upside to sit there and having a war of trade. The bottom line is make the trading fairer. You go to China and you
billionaire
try to sell your
investor Bill
there,
Ackman
you're
took
gonna have
to
a
X
51%
to
ownership
suggest
in your
Trump's
corporation,
announcement
giving
was
up
a
all
way
of
to
your
prod
intellectual
America's
secrets.
neighbors
There's no
into
way around
action.
it. You own 49%. That's not fair. So let's bring that stuff back here. But at the end of the day, President Trump and his team is building an economic powerhouse using tariffs as a means to gas the car so that they can make this thing in the next 12, 18 months a fabulous economy with at least 2 or 3 million jobs formulated hopefully within manufacturing as well as a byproduct of manufacturing over the next 3 to 4 years, bring 3 to 4 million people back into the labor force. Because right now we have over a 60% non-participation in the labor force. We can't survive like that. We need to get that back down below 50%, and he can do it.
Well, Kenneth, Christian says that Trump is not looking for a trade war, but Canada is now threatening to retaliate. So will their people have to get ready for an economic fallout?
Well, we shall see, right? I mean, we don't even know who the leadership of Canada is going to be in the next few months. So the issue with Canada is the northern border, or maybe Trump will come up with some sort of deal with saying we want you to import more American agriculture. That's usually a thing that always Canada has a problem with the United States, especially dairy. So maybe he'll get some sort of some kind of deal with them that'll be enticing to him or certain constituents, and he'll be happy with that. But again, it's going to be to make sure that Canada controls its border, but also, as Chris was saying, to keep it enticing for American manufacturing to compete and grow at home rather than dealing with foreign competition the way we have it now.
Well, Christian, in terms of Canada or Trump getting what he wants, does Canada need the United States to survive?
Yes, I'm going to make that the biggest yes I've ever said in probably 40 years. If Canada loses the U.S. trading as its number one partner, Canada will succumb to bankruptcy. I mean, at the end of the day, we are their number one trading partner. Now, does that mean we're going to go there and try to stick it to them with these tariffs? I think Trump's trying to make a point. Again, you've got to play fair. If there's ever been one area where we have been taken advantage of, we've got $1 trillion trade deficit with China, $1 trillion. That's not fair. Now, he's going to level this playing field so everybody has an opportunity to prosper. So Canada is not going to be penalized because he doesn't like them. It's going to be more of a trading arrangement. I'm not calling it a war, a trading arrangement that gives the United States a much more fair environment in which to compete. See, that's how I would do it. And I know that's how he's going to do it because he's a businessman. He's not here to start a war, whether it's bullets and arrows, whether it's goods and services. That's not what this is about. He is a businessman who wants to create great business opportunities. And I know that effectively that's where his head is. Now, if he has to use tariffs as in a trade war, make no mistake about it. He will do it until people succumb to what he knows is best for America.
Well, could this push Canada to go to China, Kenneth?
Well, I mean, they're going to do business with China. They've been doing business with China anyway, but on the Canada side, to speak of what Chris was saying, is our deficit with Canada used to be, let's say 10 years ago, 10 billion. Now it's maybe 40 or 50 billion. So it's grown exponentially over the last several years under the free trade agreement. And so Trump's thinking is, why is it that we are importing more goods from Canada and they're not importing more goods from us? We have an unbalance in the relationship with many countries, and Canada is one of them. So Trump is saying, and that's why he threatens tariffs, let's get that deficit between the two countries lower so that our trade is more in balance, so that maybe we don't have a 40 billion and growing deficit with you on trade. We have maybe a 30 and small and shrinking deficit with you on trade. And if that means I have to threaten tariffs with you so you import more goods to the United States, or that American companies aren't moving to Canada and making cars there instead, they're making them in Detroit, then that's a win for Trump.
Well, let's talk about China for a little bit. Now, Ontario Premier Doug Ford said Trump should focus on China rather than getting into a trade dispute with Canada. Your thoughts, Christian?
Okay, there's probably a lot of value to what he said. However, everybody on this side of the aisle, being on Trump's administration side, agreed to this one thing. I can tell you this certainly. Everybody is going to have to come to the table to negotiate. Whether you're doing $1 billion trade deficit with a country A, or if it's China, which is $1 trillion a year, which was just announced for 2024, that was a joke. We cannot have that. So the point you make is valid, that China's probably our first and foremost number one focus. But $40 billion a year, as Kenneth says, with Canada is no joke. If we could trim that down to $20 billion and then later 15, do you know what that $20 or $25 billion does to the U.S. economy? It may not be big in the overall sentiment of how much we spend, But you add 20 or $30 billion to manufacturing in a town like Des Moines, Iowa, or Buffalo, New York, or wherever, you're booming. You're now creating thousands of jobs, and then it'll perpetuate itself. Once you get one person to negotiate a better deal in the U.S.'s favor, and he will do it, they're all going to fall in line. This is a $29 trillion GDP. You want a piece of this money, you want a piece of this, you're going to have to be playing fair. And these deficits, they're done. There's no more deficits. We're going to bring these things down. And we're going to, number two, we're going to bring manufacturing back home again, like it was before NAFTA. Just like Ross Perot said, if we sign that deal with Mexico, there's a big suction cup that's going to just suck those jobs out. Clinton shouldn't have signed that deal. It was a bad deal. So now we're going to reverse that 1990s era of, oh, it's okay, we'll give Mexico this, Canada that, China that. When they went to the WTO, World Trade Organization, they got a plethora of huge bad value-added incentives to undermine the U.S. manufacturing and consumption business. We're bringing that back home. I can tell you right now, his team himself is focused. Number one, grow manufacturing, grow the GDP, bring the deficits down. Canada's going to be at the table negotiating before you know it.
All right, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we'll find out whether President Trump can really pull off this plan. Stay with us.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste, and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time, get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritan green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, the highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritan green vegetable omega-3.
Welcome back to NTD's International Roundtable. I'm Arlene Richards. I'm having a great discussion with our panel, experts on trade and tariffs, Kenneth Raposa and Christian Briggs. Trump campaigned on implementing widespread tariffs of at least 10 to 20% on all the goods entering the United States. Let's watch a clip.
They don't want anything from us.
We have deficits that are crazy, and we're not going to have them anymore. We're going to put tariffs on them, and they're going to do, and you know what they can do? The Mercedes-Benz will start building in the United States.
So, Kenneth, how will that work? How will he do that now that we have this California situation?
Well, how will he get Mercedes-Benz to build a factory in the United States, for example? Well, the European Commission is worried about that very thing. You know, and in fact, Mario Draghi put out a report a few months ago talking about the U.S. industrial policy and tariffs are a threat because Europe doesn't have those things, and Europe doesn't have an economic policy, and it's losing its auto industry to China, for example. And many of those companies are setting up shop in the United States because of tariffs, and on the EV side because of the Inflation Reduction Act. So as far as California goes, that's a separate topic. I don't think that will impact his tariff policy one way or the other.
Well, Christian, what do you think? If he wants to impose tariffs across the board, you know, in all these different countries, you know, does he need to reevaluate this now because of this California situation?
Well, that's a really good point. So let me tell you, I literally was just last week talking about the impact of the California fires. 13,000 structures who obviously were demolished and destroyed within the Southern California market. Now, about 12,000 were residential, about 1,000, maybe 1,500 were commercial buildings. The cost to rebuild that will have an impact and will probably cause some inflation, but I think it's going to be marginal. I don't think it's going to be so much that it'll be detrimental to the tariff philosophy or certainly the agenda of tariffs to meet or exceed the opportunities of manufacturing in the U.S., but there is going to be some inflation. You got 13,000 structures from concrete to lumber to glass to sheetrock to asphalt, shingles on the roofs. We've been talking about this with some leading economic advisors. I have been for about 5 or 6 days putting together actual numbers on what the cost could be. So there is going to have to be some look at that because that is one of the largest catastrophic events, certainly in a natural disasters, how it kind of plays out. We've seen certainly in 100 years. So again, there will be a little bit of marginal effect on that, but not enough to slow or to stop the tariff agenda to make us more competitive and to bring manufacturing back home again. So he should be fine.
Well, Christian, could this trigger a recession?
I don't think this will trigger a recession. I think that the bottom half of America has been in a recession from the inflation. The wages obviously have not kept up to the bottom half of America to the cost of, I'll just use eggs as an example. There's no way that the average wage has gone up 100% over the last 4 years, but eggs have. There's no way wages have gone up 50% to offset commercial, residential, or even healthcare insurance premiums over the last 4 years. So the bottom half of America has been in a slight recession. Not that it can't get out of it. See, manufacturing is what lifts the bottom to the top. Manufacturing is your number one way to increase productivity, to make it the most efficient you can with the most amount of return on investment. So that is why Trump is focusing so aggressively in his first 100 days on manufacturing. Tariffs is just a means to get manufacturing, domestic and international, going. And I know he's going to be able to do it because I've seen him work before. I know what he's thinking in the sense of the way he broadcasts his information to people, and he's right. But we have to be careful because when they start rebuilding in California, you've got about $500 billion worth of economics. Now, that's going to be good for some of the
I want to go to Kenneth for a minute here. I want to ask a different question to Kenneth. So, Kenneth, can Trump impose global tariffs without getting approval from Congress? We talked earlier about whether Democrats are going to get on board. Are they going to say he needs to get approval from Congress?
Yes, he can do it. He approved, tariffs on China without approval from Congress. Congress is going to try to get in the way because they're going to say that tariffs are a tax and that they're in charge of taxation. But I don't think they'll be successful in that. I think, they'll try their best to stop it. They'll keep saying that it's a tax on the Americans, a tax on the American middle class, but I don't think they'll stop it.
Christian, do you think he'll need approval from Congress, or can he do it on his own?
No, he's going to do it right on his own. He'll ask for forgiveness later if he has to go back to Congress, but they're going to give it to him. Even when the Democrats are pushing back, as Kenneth has said earlier, and they are pushing back because they think, oh, that's a tax. It's not a tax. It's a means to be competitive in a geo-manufacturing environment because we are one global economy. So you have to be competitive. If you're not competitive at home, you're not going to be competitive on the international stage. It's just not going to happen. So you have to be willing to go and do what needs to get done. Now, if he wants to ask permission or if he wants to ask forgiveness later, that's great. But he's just going to go do it. That's what I would do. Do what you're allowed to do and do it in such a way that brings this home and gets this middle class back up to where it was pre Biden administration, because the numbers were better when Trump was in his first term.
Well, Kenneth, could the press retaliate and cause a problem for Trump?
Oh, yes. That's the answer to that question, because that's what they exist. That's what they exist to do. That's all they do. But the press, no one pays attention to them. ABC, NBC, CNN. I mean, they're despised. They're probably, if you were to do a list of the top 5 institutions that most Americans distrust, I would say the media is probably up there with Congress. They might even have surpassed it at this point. So they'll do it. They'll do what they're expected to do, what all Americans know they're going to do, and they will fail at it.
Let's talk about Trump's recent announcement that he's going to create an external revenue agency, something like DOGE. Does he need Congress to approve that, Christian?
Well, if it's an agency, he may need some authority under Congress. But I think he's kind of just going, I'm just going to do this stuff. I'm going to make up as I kind of go. And creating this external agency, I mean, DOGE is not really an agency. It's more of, I call it a think tank. It's like a really good think tank with really smart people. So if he wants to create the external revenue service or some kind of an agency, semi-quasi kind of thing, he's just going to go do it. And I applaud him for doing it, because we need it. I mean, he's doing the things we need. So let's not look at, could he do it? Let's just go do it. We'll worry about what the permission base was at the time. But he's got the American people, got like 70, 80, 90, 100 million people behind him. We're all in this together. So do what he's got to do, make it work. The results are what
Christian,
counts.
he can't get a budget. He can't get a budget without approval from Congress. So, how's this going to work? How can he do it?
Well, he can't. You're right. He cannot get a budget without Congress. But there are some things he can do that he'll try to push through. And I do believe there are some Democrats, I call it the blue dog 1950s and 60s Democrats, that still believe that economics.
Well, he has to follow the law. He has to follow the rule of law. So can you be specific about what he has to do?
Yeah, he's going to get Democrats on his side. He's going to pass this legislation. There are Democrats that do believe he's right about the economics and the tariffs. They may be saying it publicly one thing, but behind closed doors, he's got some Democrats that are believing in his ideology.
Well, Kenneth, is this right? I mean, is this what he's going to do? He's going to get Democrats to come on board, or is there something more specific that he has to do?
Well, and speaking of the External Revenue Service, you might not even need one. We have the Treasury Department. The tariffs are going to go to Treasury, and then Treasury can decide, how that money is going to be split up, or whatever they're going to do. But it's just going to be a pool of money coming into the Treasury Department from tariffs. As far as getting Democrats on board with tariffs, absolutely, there are Democrats who are pro-tariff. Sherrod Brown, who's outgoing, he's not senator anymore, but he was. Fetterman certainly is, and there's many others. Ron Wyden, in many ways, have been against tariffs. He's the second guy in charge of the Senate Finance Committee. But there are others in Congress, in both houses, that are definitely in favor of tariffs because they believe it supports the American workers. So that's the way that they spin it. This is a way to protect American labor, including American unions. And remember, the Teamsters overwhelmingly voted for Trump. So if they want that group back in their corner, they're going to have to show that they can protect them some way. And one of the ways to do that is through tariffs.
Now, we're talking about global tariffs across all countries, but how is that different from imposing tariffs on individual countries? Christian?
Well, global tariffs is kind of like a grenade. You're just going to, throw it out there and see kind of what happens. But I think, again, surgically put together and again, identifying certain products, like, okay, low-hanging fruit. Look at furniture manufacturing. It used to be on the East Coast, the Carolinas were some of the biggest manufacturers of furniture. And it's a very good margin business. So I think when he looks at certain things, whether it's global, bringing into the domestic market here for manufacturing, he's already got a pretty good idea of where he needs to go. So it's not going to be grenade, it's going to be surgical, and it's going to be fast. And it's going to be within that first 100 days. And when the American people actually understand what he's doing, they're going to get very excited about it. And it won't be quite the disruption that the media, as Kenneth had said earlier, yes, the media is not going to be his best friend right now, but they will come around because at the end of the day, the American spirit lives well, no matter what party you belong to, no matter what ideology you want. We all want people to be successful.
All right, well, Kenneth,
it's a win-win for everybody.
What do you think about this, Kenneth? Is there a difference between imposing tariffs on an individual country versus all of the countries?
Well, yes, it'll be a little harder, right, in the sense that you're not just singling out China. So when we say all the countries, I think the main area that people are thinking about would be Europe, right? So how is Europe going to react? And again, I'll tell you this: European Union is our second source of our trade deficit. China is number one. The European Union is number two. So if we say, hey, why is it that when we import a brand new Audi, your company pays a 3% tariff? But if we want to sell you a Corvette, it's a 10% tariff. So how about this? It's now going to be 10% for your Audi to match your 10% for our Detroit-made, our American-made.
Kenneth, we're going to have to wrap that up now. We hope you all enjoyed this discussion on tariffs. Thank you to our guests, Christian Briggs and Kenneth Raposa. I'm Arlene Richards. Again, thank you for joining us on International Roundtable. We'll see you soon.
Performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Coming to Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, January 17th through the 19th. Buy tickets now at shenyun.com. Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented My Pillow. My Pillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got My Pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King My Pillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic My Pillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
I'm David Zhang in Silicon Valley, California, and we are NTD News.
Welcome. Here's an NTD special. NTD has the honor and privilege of publishing a recent article by teacher Li Hongzhi. Teacher Li is the founder of the spiritual discipline Falun Dafa, also known as Falun Gong. The practice combines meditation and gentle exercises with a moral philosophy, guided by the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Since its founding in China in 1992, millions of people now practice the system around the world. Here at NTD, we work to bring you uncensored and unbiased news. We also believe in uplifting our audience by sharing content we believe represents universal values and honors tradition. We're happy to present this article. Why this world is a realm of unknowing. The greater universe is so vast that no divine beings, heavenly sovereigns, or lords above know what lies beyond, and the number of lives is simply countless. All lives in the greater universe see, in an all-encompassing manner, the world they reside in from the vantage point of the planes on which they materially exist. The way all these lives see the world isn't unlike how divine beings do, only it is without the insights, wisdom, and powers that divine beings have. This means that the beings throughout the greater universe are different from human beings, who cannot see the world in which they exist as it truly is, cannot see the other life forms that are present in their surrounding environments, and cannot see the physical things in this setting as they truly are. As a result, the way that human beings think, as well as how they understand the world, are both quite particular and limited. This world is thus a place of unknowing, except for in the cases of the supernatural beings originally here in the three realms, and of certain spiritual phenomena. Then what accounts for this? Here is the reason. The greater universe and the multitudes of systems within it had reached the last phase of the cosmic cycle of formation, stasis, degeneration, and destruction. And as everything headed for the terrifying prospect of final annihilation and oblivion, the Creator decided to endeavor to save all lives. The reason the greater universe and the numerous universes within it had reached the stage of destruction is because they, as well as the countless lives within them, including the many lords, sovereigns, and divine ones in each of the universes, had become, over the very long course of the formation, stasis, degeneration, and destruction cosmic cycle, inferior to how they were during the early days of the formation stage. Or to put it another way, after all of those ages, they no longer met the standards for their respective planes. This was the inevitable trajectory of the course of existence. And so, for the purpose of rescuing lives, the Creator made a world outside of the greater universe. It would be utilized to save the innumerable lives of the greater universe, and was called the Three Realms. Within the three realms, there are three planes of existence. The beings in the lowest of the three are powerless and without higher insight or wisdom, existing in an environment that is the most taxing and difficult to see through, and that is the human world. The people and beings in the second plane surpass only humankind in insight and wisdom, so they can see only how things are in the human realm and where they themselves are. Humans have referred to them as heavenly beings or demigods. The beings that are yet one plane higher can see how things are for beings in the two realms below them, as well as where they themselves are. And their powers of insight and wisdom are the greatest of the three realms. People here in this world have generally referred to these as deities or celestial beings. Yet none of the beings in the three realms have the power to see the universe as it truly is, nor to see the kingdoms and paradises where divine beings reside further above. Humankind thus lives in a state of unknowing, having the least insight and wisdom, and being incapable of seeing the essence of things. This was brought about by the Creator, and it was done in order to allow for beings redemption on the eve of the final destruction. It gives them a chance to avoid that fate, if only they manage to hold fast to the goodness inherent in them, even in this delusory and trying world. It is indeed very hard. The only way to make it through is for lives to endure suffering and work off their karma at a time when lives are slated for elimination during this end point of the formation, stasis, degeneration, destruction cycle, and to preserve their innate goodness. Only then will they be deemed worthy of the future. When the final cosmic phase arrived, the Creator gave His approval for the greater universe's multitude of divine beings, sovereigns, lords, and the still more massive divine and enlightened beings overseeing each of the greater universe's different domains, to descend to the world and incarnate in human form. Here, however, all of their higher wisdom, powers of insight, and divine abilities would be sealed off. And in this most trying of places, without their powers or wisdom, closed off completely in a human body, they would have to go through adversity to work off their karma, or relying on positive and virtuous thoughts and keeping alive the goodness within. Only then would they be acknowledged by the legions of divine ones above, as well as the Creator, and earn a place in the future. Those who have managed to gradually work off their karma over the course of their many reincarnations in this world, and who have grown in virtue and goodness along the way, are sure to be chosen for salvation. They will certainly be delivered by the Creator to the new universe when salvation unfolds at the end of the last days. What this means is that the state of ignorance and unenlightenment in which humankind lives is part of a unique world and way of existence that was made to be such by the Creator for the purpose of redemption. That is why any attempts by a human to ask another being to shatter this state of unknowing would prove futile. No beings in this world or beyond would dare to undermine this setting that was made for salvation. There are always those in this world who consider spiritual beliefs to be unfounded. So some say that they only believe in what they can see and don't believe otherwise. As a result, some people do wrong without any concern for consequences. If a divine being, however high his stature, incarnates as a human, for having a human body means one is human, he will assume the human state of unknowing along with his human body. And so some, being in this state, create karma here. The reason the Creator made the three realms was for beings to diminish their sinful karma by experiencing adversity, with the essential purpose of their elevating on a moral level. Only a being free of sin or karma can be delivered home to heaven. And the principles of the greater universe dictate that karma must be paid for. Human beings live in a state of ignorance, and so they are apt to create sinful karma in this human realm. And naturally, it must be paid for. If it isn't paid for in one lifetime, it must be in the next. Many people have an enormous amount of sinful karma, in fact, and so the Creator has borne some of their suffering for them so that they may gain salvation. This is the greatest form of compassion and the greatest form of love for these lives. The fact is, a person's life will truly be extinguished if his karma amasses to a certain point. So the real purpose of your coming to this earth was to work off all of your karma and thus be able to return to heaven. When each person incarnated into this world, they made a vow to the Creator. Yet it is, of course, hard to pay for one's karma. Karma makes people contend and fight with one another, and it causes war, disease, toil, hunger, poverty, and thus pain and suffering. Some have more karma and some less. And this is why there are both rich and poor in this world. If one can stay good and kind, even in the state of unknowing, one will create less karma, and life will be easier. All of this is to say that people's state of unknowing was made this way for their salvation, and to save the greater universe and vast numbers of universes. Since there are such incredibly significant reasons behind this state, the spell of delusion absolutely cannot be broken to suit human wishes. Some may wonder why the many supernatural beings on this earth don't do as man desires and lift the veil. The fact is, they wouldn't dare. That is because it was made to be this way by the Creator, for the purpose of saving the greater universe and the multitude of beings. It is to allow for the redemption of these lives. Teacher Li Hongzhi, September 30th, 2024. Thank you for watching. If you would like to read the article, you can find it on ntd.com.
Is this okay? Do I need to say hi? Okay.
My name is Shen Yun, and I'm the second tallest dancer at Fei Tian College.
Is that too much?
Can you repeat the question?
Ooh, it's a tough one. I'll tell you the honest answer.
My name is Ryan Lee, and I'm a freshman here at Fei Tian College.
My name is Kathy Wu, and I'm a second-year graduate student in the Department of Dance.
My name is Jesse Browdy. I'm a freshman at Fei Tian College, and I'm studying Chinese classical dance.
My name is Rachel Chen, and I received my bachelor's and master's from Fei Tian College, majoring in viola performance.
The first thing that really struck me about Fei Tian College is just the environment here. I've been to a lot of places. I used to travel around Europe a lot, but when I came here, I really felt like, oh, this is something else. This is something really, really, really beautiful.
When I first saw the campus, I was like, wow. It kind of felt like I was time traveling.
It's like you're transported back to like the Tang Dynasty, where first you see a lake, and then there's grassy hills that go up to these Tang Dynasty temples and pagodas and a pavilion. It's just a place that everything is really peaceful.
And we're only 1.5 hours away from New York City, which is the cultural capital of the world. We have the Met Opera, New York Phil. Yeah, I mean, what more could you ask for?
I felt like before I came to this college, I was a very emotional person.
I would practice for like 2 minutes and then get bored. I couldn't really control myself no matter how much I wanted to do well.
When I was at school in Australia, I felt like I didn't see a purpose in me putting the effort to learn all I needed at school because I didn't see a deeper meaning, a deeper goal that I wanted to achieve.
And then there was also the social media aspect where, you come home from school and then, look at your phone and just every day scroll, double tap, scroll, double tap. I would really just waste away my day, putting my emotional energy on them, putting my time on them, kind of worrying about how I fitted into this world on the internet and this world of appearances. And even though I was young, I could myself feel like this is not where I want to be right now. I felt like I needed a safe haven. I needed somewhere where I could go and really focus.
What hit me the most when I first came here was walking into the academic classes, and it was so quiet. People were actually listening to the teacher. They actually looked like they wanted to learn.
The school has a strict policy on smartphones for students. And I feel like with this special environment here, we have more interaction with each other and really build this friendship.
Honestly, we don't really use social media to interact that much. And that just makes everything a lot calmer. Like, you don't feel like people are missing out on anything. There's a lot more human interaction and a lot less of drama and unnecessary emotions. And that just makes this learning environment really great.
I feel like that also comes from the traditional culture that we are taught here. There's a saying in Chinese that goes, 一日为师，终身为父. It's basically a day a teacher, a lifetime a father figure.
The teachers at Fei Tian really put in a lot of effort and really want to give the best to their students. I remember one year in Chinese class, we had students with 9 different levels of Chinese, and the teacher basically made a different curriculum for each student because they wanted each student to improve in their own way.
In Chinese culture, you have this duty where you take care of your parents when they grow old. There's a lot of those stories. There's the 24 stories of people who were exemplary models of filial piety. One person laid on the ice of a lake to melt it so he could get fish to make soup for his sick stepmother. She wasn't even his mother, but that's just the way his morality was, or that's the way the society was. And after learning that, when I look back, I felt like, wow, I should really be more grateful for my parents. I was such a troublesome kid and they did so much. And it just never occurred to me that I should be not just nice to them, but actually have this filial piety. And this is something that people have been doing for thousands of years. It's part of their culture. And it's something that I can incorporate in my own life too.
Everyone here, the students, the teachers, all the faculty, everyone here is like a family. You never feel like you're an outsider here.
There's always this sense of everyone is looking out for each other, thinking of other people. There's a really strong sense of the group.
We feel more connected than just normal friends, and we actually feel like siblings as well. It just feels very warm being here.
When people make mistakes, it's not about, oh my gosh, this person made a mistake, how could you do that? It's more like, oh, I want to really help this person and help them improve.
You see people can you listen to this one passage? And they help each other do better. And then you actually feel that when they get gold or when they get to the final round, people are genuinely happy for them. And they find that their achievements are more rewarding than their own.
That sense of community just feels very strong, and it's something that holds everyone together, and it makes you feel very solid, like you have roots.
There are many times where I want to give up, but I think what Fei Tian has given me is this grit and this confidence in myself that no matter what happens, I can always get through it.
I learned to keep going, to not stop. If we have class at 8:30 or 9, you always have to wake up earlier before that to get your morning workout done. And sometimes we would run the lake or do some ab workout or some jumps. Not only is it to train your endurance and your stamina, it's also to train your mind.
College here isn't really just a means of finding a job or like being successful in life, but rather truly becoming better people and using these values that we take at this college to bring us through the rest of our lives.
The standards are very high here, and there's definitely a high level of competition in terms of the music track. There are people who play incredibly well, and you might think you've prepared a piece well enough, but you play a jury and you realize that there are places that didn't go so well, or perhaps professors will give you feedback that you didn't think about before.
I think the most challenging part of being a music student at Fei Tian College is balancing your own self-improvement, but also preparing for the practicum tour and there's academics at the same time.
Because a lot of times we'll have 2 essays, a quiz, a dress rehearsal, a dance competition piece, all at once.
But I think we don't really know our own limits as students. And so these challenges that Fei Tian provides really pushed me beyond what I thought I could accomplish.
It's just a very good thing that we have so many things all together at once. And when everything is finished, you're just like, oh my gosh, that was such a journey. But I learned so much and I would not have traded it for anything. The only true sense of reward or success is when you know you've done something, when you know you've pushed yourself through it and that you gave something of yourself up to earn it.
Here, we all practice Falun Dafa, and we all follow these principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. And in this school, I just see everyone being really selfless all the time and putting other people before themselves. And it really inspires me.
There was always someone I could talk to, someone I could lean on to ask for help and their guidance. I think that was a really big aspect on me being able to, solidify my faith, because when I was in Australia, I didn't really wholeheartedly believe in this faith. Only until when I came here and I see everyone else going through the same things and they are still pushing themselves to the limits just so they can, be better as a person, be better as a dancer or a musician so they can further their craft.
My parents started practicing in the late 90s, right? So naturally, when I was born a couple of years later, I was brought into this environment. As I grew up, it's probably typical of teenage boys, and you start getting a little rebellious. You don't really care that much, and you kind of start doing your own thing. But luckily, my mom had me playing violin, so I think she kind of knew that she would send me here one day, that only a place like this could truly change me. And it was literally like the moment I first entered. I think when I walked on campus, I looked around the beautiful temples, interacted with some of the best people I've ever met. I think that instantly just dug out something that was pure in my heart, that has been buried for a long time.
One of the main principles of Falun Dafa is to look inside yourself. No matter what happens, no matter what kind of conflicts you get into or something goes wrong on stage, even if it's not you, you look inside yourself and see what you can improve.
And a lot of times we'll have conflicts like, oh, we should do this, or we should do that. And then everyone's at a stalemate. It's nobody wants to back down. But then having our faith helps us, we think back, we reflect on ourselves a lot. And then we realize that there's no need to push our own idea out every single time. It's okay if you take a step back and let someone else put out their idea. And then you just help make their idea even better.
After looking within, I would think maybe I was being too selfish. I didn't think about, what was better for the whole, or caring more for other people. Everything happens for a reason. So if a conflict arises, maybe it's time for me to look inside and elevate my own state of mind.
Sometimes when you can go back and just meditate or read the scriptures or just calm down and think about yourself, it's a lot easier to realize oh, maybe what that person said to me today, it's actually not the end of the world. And I feel like that's something people realize later on in life. They look back oh, I did so many stupid things when I was young. I feel like with Falun Dafa, it's now I can look at myself and be is what I'm doing now right? Is this the kind of person I want to be?
When that happens to everyone, when everybody is doing that, then kind of the power behind that is unstoppable. So part of our curriculum, we have this thing called practicum. And every year,
students from Fei Tian College go on tour with Shen Yun Performing Arts.
There's probably nowhere else in the world where you can go on practicum with a professional arts company like Shen Yun Performing Arts and tour around the world and get that kind of real life hands-on experience that comes with not only performing but off the stage too. Every time we come back from tour, it's not like I think, wow, we performed 100+ shows. It's more like, wow, I've learned so much. Every show is a new experience. Every show brings us new challenges. Every time we rehearse or every time we travel, it brings different tribulations. And the way that we get through them, the way we kind of develop ourselves as a person and as a musician, that's really education in itself. It's not just learning or practicing. It's experiencing life.
I've been fortunate enough to get to visit many different countries. Shen Yun goes all around the world to a lot of different places like Europe, Asia. I've been to Taiwan, Great Britain, Italy, Spain, Sweden, Germany, France, Brazil, all over the world. And I feel like it's been really great for me as a person to be able to see and interact with all these different cultures.
Most of classical music, is written by these great composers that are from Europe. And then I think to be able to tour there and actually experience the culture, I think that for me was really big.
You go to places you never would have expected, try different foods, absorb different cultures. But apart from that is kind of what we're trying to do as dancers of Shen Yun and students of Fei Tian College.
Everybody here, from the students to the teachers, everyone is here for one goal.
What drives us is actually the mission of reviving traditional Chinese culture.
I have never seen anything so wonderful as this.
And to see Shen Yun work so hard to bring back the best that civilization has ever created. Chinese civilization is so powerful. Shen Yun has saved so much before it was too late.
其实我看从头看到我一直在流泪。这么美这么漂亮的演出，我们能看到在中国不允许的。
This is the real China, and it's being suppressed. I was actually choked up at the end because I thought about all the work and the dedication that the artists put into this, and I thought, man, oh man, what an achievement.
If you're a teacher, teaching them at that high level, the reward for that teacher is beyond measure.
They're obviously inspired by something greater than themselves. I think that just shines from them.
I can see the spiritual discipline in their physical discipline. I can see their commitment and their sacrifice to be able to perform this tonight, which is a real honor to be able to partake in that.
When you improve as a person, the art that you produce is more pure and more beautiful.
Only really by elevating your moral character do you have something that's meaningful to others.
Here in Fei Tian College, I think the biggest benefit I've gained is finding self-worth and self-purpose for a better cause, a bigger cause.
Sometimes I take a step back and it's a little bit humbling, I guess, to be doing something this big, to be sharing something this divine or this ancient, which is Chinese culture, with the whole world.